Wise Pineapples do. I have a treat for you today. Our guest is Danny Bader. He is a best-selling author, speaker, and thought leader dedicated to helping people live with a radical reverence for your life, otherwise known as RFL. He'll explain more on the podcast. After surviving a near-death electrocution accident, Danny developed a powerful philosophy that inspires individuals to embrace resilience, purpose, and faith. Through his books, 5 of them, including Back to Life and I Met Jesus for a Miller Lite, and his dynamic keynotes, he challenges audiences to connect with their human spirit, their fourth energy, to create a fulfilling, meaningful life. And all of this you can use in your leadership. Get ready for an inspiring conversation with my friend and a man who knows what it means to say yes and truly live. Welcome to the Yes Show. I'm your host, Christine Trippi. Each week, we'll explore the life-changing power of saying yes, along with hotel leadership made easy. Get ready for inspiration, fun, and sweet hospitality. Let's go. All right, Danny, you said yes to life. Can you share a little bit about your truly life-changing yes when you walked out of that phone booth?
Sure. Yes, I was kind of at that proverbial rock bottom, so to speak. A few months earlier, I had had a very traumatic and tragic accident where a friend and I lowered a metal ladder into an electric line. And we both got electrocuted with about 8,000 volts of electricity, and it killed both of us. It went in my hands and out my feet, my socks, and my boots. And then after about 6 or 7, 8 minutes, I came back to life. My friend didn't. So I was in the hospital for 10 days. I went home. I slipped into a I slid into a brutally dark place. And I went to the Outer Banks of North Carolina with the intention of not coming back. And one particular day, I was very immersed in that thought of self-destruction. And for some amazing reason, I did not carry it out. And I went into a phone booth half drunk, and I called my mom. And she said, "When are you coming home? We can't wait to see you." And as you know, Christine, something just shifted for me when I walked out, because I was not saying yes to life. I was upset that we lost my friend. I blamed it on me. He was a great guy. His kids didn't have a dad. I was really in that dark proverbial rock bottom place and was not saying yes to life. And I did. For some reason, when I walked out of the phone booth, I have my ideas about it. And yeah, I did.
Yeah, you sure did say yes to life. And I've heard your story. I've read your story in your books. But every time I hear you talk about it, I literally have chills everywhere. You have been through so much, and you've come through so much, and you've been able to take what you've been through and share so much with so many people who need the message, need the lessons. So I just love you so much,
No,
Danny.
I love you too.
I'm so honored to call you a friend too. Now, you have many books. Is this your 5th book you just wrote?
This is the 5th one.
Yeah,
Yes.
I thought so. 5th book. I have all of them on my shelf, but I should have brought them all down. But I've got your new one right here with a bunch of little flags to talk to you today. So let's talk a little bit about your new book, A Radical Reverence for Your Life. Your near-death experience forced you to rethink everything, and why we don't have to wait for ourselves to have a crisis to start living fully. I love that you share that with people. Now, in your book, you encourage readers to shift from autopilot to awakened living. Ooh. Can you elaborate on the radical reverence and what that means and how it differs from a more conventional appreciation for life?
Hmm. Yeah, I think I've come to understand there's 3 levels of engaging in life.
Mhm.
And the idea for this book came from a couple of real influences. Number one, I lost 5 really good friends in the past 6 years that were between 56 years of age, 2 brother-in-laws, a college roommate, and 2 really good buddies, and 63. So I was like, wow. And then that caused me to really think, am I living fully in my life?
Mhm.
And then I would talk to some people and they would have the same question. So, kind of those 3 forces, I said, you know what, I'm just going to, and the idea for a radical reverence for your life came to mind. And I thought, I'm just going to, all my other books have characters and stories. And I said, I'm just going to kind of offer people what I've come to understand are really important and powerful principles for us to act and to practice to live with that radical reverence for your life. So I think there's really three levels of engaging with life. One is a radical reverence for life. I call it RFL. I got my
Mm-hmm.
shirt on there because I know you always have your pineapple. So I said, I got to wear my
Mm-hmm.
RFL shirt. So
I've
that's
got
the
our fill flagged.
yeah, it's like a new word like Google and Uber and all those other Venmo, all
Mm-hmm.
those other words we never had before. So a radical reverence for life. Radical means very different from the usual or the traditional. So when you look around and you see, most times I think people are just engaged with life in a very usual and traditional fashion. And then there's those people that really pop and they really stand out and they've got tremendous passion and purpose and resilience. They're the ones living with a radical reverence for life. And that's what I strive for. If you slide down the scale, then there's a regular reverence for life. And I think that's probably where 7 out of 10 people are. There's, as you said, there's some appreciation for life. There's some awareness. There's some gratitude. And though there's a bit of a kind of time to make the donuts stuck in a rut.
Mm-hmm.
And to talk with people and I'll say, how you doing? And they say, oh my gosh, I'm living the dream. Or another day in paradise. And when
Mm-hmm.
they say it, though, there's a little bit of sarcasm on that
Right.
comment. So that's where I think most people are. And then down the scale where I was, and certainly other people have been, is a very reduced reverence, right? So it's radical, it's regular, and it's reduced. And reduced reverence is where you have a very strong disconnect from spirit, very destructive disconnect. It's where, it's where um, addiction shows up. It's where people are stuck. It's where despair shows up. I call it the valley of the victim a lot of times. It's just
Mm-hmm.
life has beat this person down and they don't see a path forward.
I love that the valley of the victim. That is it's such
Mm,
a visual. And I talk
yeah,
about victim or Viking a lot, so it really resonates with me as well. I like that, the valley of the victim. And just
yeah,
just as a side note, um, it's I sound like I'm talking to me because we're probably similar ages, and I've been having the same things happen to me in my life where I've lost people my age and within 10 years, um, and it's been so real, I guess, of where I am in life and whatnot, and really not to take any day for granted.
right.
And one of the things I've been talking about a lot is hashtag last picture energy. You know, when I'm with people, I make sure I get a selfie. I make sure that I'm in the moment because this might be the last time I'm with them, and that's
Yeah.
happened to me over the last couple of years. So yeah, I really have been feeling that and truly setting out, planning my year in the beginning of the year each year. Now I'm starting to plan my year to making sure that I have a adventure every quarter, every other
Mhm.
week, which is 26 yes adventures, that I'm doing something new out of the ordinary. And then one misogi, if you will, which is a year defining event. And this year it's going to be last year it was doing the Santiago El Camino. Have you heard of
Mm,
that?
yes, yes, yes.
Mm.
No, I remember you did that. That's great. My brother Paul talks about doing it. He's retired once and then he went back and he's probably going to retire again shortly. And he talks about doing that. He
Oh,
and I both have
really?
very strong faith and we
Mm-hmm.
realize the importance of nurturing your connection with spirit, right? Your fourth
Mm-hmm.
energy, because you've got your heart, brain, and lungs. But when I died that day, they stayed in my body. They didn't leave. My spirit is what left. And then for some reason it came back. That's what really makes us go. That's our life force.
When that all happened, was there a particular reason why, like, were you brought back to life, or did you just?
Well, I used to think the two reasons, Christine. Number one, when I was dead and I was communicating with what I believed to be God, and
Okay.
I expressed, not in words, but it was very cosmic communication, I had a choice to stay or come back. And I didn't necessarily want to come back here to life because where I was or where I was headed was pretty freaking crazy and profound and beautiful and joyful and all those words that don't even describe it.
Mm-hmm.
And though I expressed love, I expressed love and concern for my mom. And I said, what about my mom? And what about Lisa? So in other words, I don't want to go back, but if I don't, what about them? Lisa was my girlfriend
Okay.
of quite a few years, and then we got married shortly thereafter. So I believe love is what brought me back. And, that's the energy, that's the connect, that's the energy of spirit, right? Is love. So I believe that's what brought me back. And I struggled with that. I asked that question many times. Why me and not, my friend who had 3 kids, married. I
Right.
wasn't even married yet, with no kids. Um, and then I think I've really just settled over the past, gosh, I don't know, maybe 8 years, 7 years, whatever. I really just settled to the fact that perhaps I came back to just share my experience and share my message in service and support for other people.
Mm-hmm.
And it took, you and I have talked about this, and as speakers, a lot of times, it really challenges your humility.
Mm-hmm.
That oh my God, okay, so I'm back here to speak to these people. I know more than them. I can, and I really struggle with that. And now I just trust that, 1 or 2 or 3 people in the audience maybe needs to hear the message that I'm going to offer. And
Right.
I'm just a vehicle for that message.
Right. And that's how I feel too. That, I know every audience has 3 types of participants: your coconut, your banana, and your
Yeah.
pineapple, who,
Yeah.
who wants to learn, takes every opportunity to learn and grow. And so when I get up there, I just focus on those pineapples who want to better themselves, who want to take the strategies and mindset and go win with them. And
Sure.
if I make a difference with one person,
That's it.
I won.
That's it. That is
Mhm.
it. That's
Now,
what
I
we're
have a
here
funny
for.
story for you. Given that you said of what you were thinking, why you came back and what was calling you back.
Right.
We talked a little bit about my husband. In December, he had major, major open heart surgery. He's on life support. He almost didn't make it. And
Mm.
before he went in, we would talk and, we're jokey people. So we joked a little bit. And I said to him, we have 2 dogs. And I said to him, listen, if it gets to a point where you need to fight for your life and come back, I want
Right.
you to know I'm never washing those dog bowls. So if you want the dog bowls,
That's you. Yes. You tell God, you tell her, right? You tell her I got to go back to watch the dog bowls. Well, that's good. I think humor is such a powerful,
yes.
and right. And I think when we express humor like that, it's just an expression of love towards somebody else, where we
Hmm.
love so much. I heard a great line, and it's in the book there. You saw a quote: "Love is the condition in which the happiness of another person is essential to your own." I mean,
Yes.
I'll use that for the rest of my life. Robert Heinlein, I came across. I think he was a aeronautical engineer,
Mhm.
aeronautical physicist. It's just so powerful. So, love was just a condition where you wanted your husband to just be happy and as peaceful as he could be, knowing what he was going into.
Right.
It's just essential to your own. You couldn't feel better until, and humor can do that for us. Humor can do it an awful lot.
Yes, humor. That's always been my way that I deal with everything. I think
Mhm.
is through humor,
Yeah.
and it has helped me. And honestly, even in customer service, I talk about how when you use humor through customer service, that is a great way of bonding with people, connecting, and it's a great way sometimes to say yes through humor. Before I move on to my next question, because I really want to get to some of your tools, and some of the tools might be exactly the answer to this question too. So I mentioned to you how I with purpose make sure I set out to have an amazing life with scheduling those adventures and making sure, like having quotas to meet, if you will, for fun and seeing people and things like that. So, is there anything that you do with purpose and intention to make sure that's happening?
Yes, nurture my faith. I've been given the gift of knowing that when your body stops, there's a part of you that doesn't. And I have to believe that's the case for all of us as human beings.
Yeah.
Now, the experience of some people that have gone and come back is different than mine, although many are similar. And though that many have had that experience, right? So faith is belief without proof. That's the definition. I was
Mm.
actually given a little bit of proof. So it's always to cultivate my faith in that, yes, Danny Bader's here in his physical sense, and there's a divine energy inside of him that's connected to the divine and all the rest of us. So for me to live with that radical reverence for life, I've got to continue to nurture that. So it can
Okay.
be done through friendships, spending time with people. It can be done in silence. I believe the spirit resides in stillness.
Mm.
So I'll usually do one, maybe two retreats a year where
Oh,
I don't talk to my wife or kids for, 2 or 3 days. And I leave my phone, like if my wife needs me, I put my phone in airplane mode, but you can allow different numbers to come through. I do that. I've always gone to church. Well, I didn't go after the accident for a little while because I figured that God screwed that up and I was very mad at God. And
mhm.
but now I go to church when I'm in town. I often go to church in the morning. It's about a half hour. So I went
Oh,
yesterday.
every morning.
Most times when I'm around now.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's wonderful. And I know you're very physical. And
Yeah.
for me, it's almost like yoga is almost my church.
Mhm.
And I really feel like that is the fountain of youth
Yeah.
and the number one antidepressant.
Yeah.
Uh, any kind of movement for me is kind of my church.
Yeah. And I think nature for a lot of people. In the summertime, we have a little place down at the beach in New Jersey, not
Mm,
far from the Delaware Bay, which is like 16 miles across. And many mornings I'll just walk down there with my paddle board, 6:30,
nice.
7 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes you see some dolphins just kind of going real, and that's it. I'll take my
Oh,
phone, usually shoot my 1 minute wisdom, but otherwise it's just quiet. I don't put any music on. I'll paddle for a mile or a mile and a half, and then I'll just sit on the board for a little bit, with my legs hanging off. And that's a good way for me to connect with spirit. Yesterday I
yes.
one too, and I wrote that in the book. Um, Babies. I think when babies come into this world, are born, their freaking spirit is so powerful, right? Because the world has not layered it over. So
Hmm.
anytime I can get my hands on a little baby, and just, my nieces and nephews are starting to have them, and some of my friends' kids and all, it's just amazing. I had our niece yesterday. My niece was down the street at the restaurant with my mom and another woman. So I went down real quick, and it was St. Patty's Day, so I had Guinness with them. I didn't eat, but I had Guinness. And my great niece is there, and she's born in July, so 8 months. And there's a picture in this restaurant of Stevie Nicks, beautiful, cool painting of Stevie
Mm.
Nicks. And my great niece never met her grandfather, my brother-in-law, who died of ALS a couple of years ago. So she was born afterwards. So I was walking around with her in the restaurant, and I took her up, and my brother-in-law loved Stevie Nicks and Fleetwood Mac. So I went up and I was just holding her, and she was looking, and we were touching the picture a little bit. And I was just telling her how much her grandfather loved Stevie Nicks. And there's no question, my spirit was freaking oozing out of my body. I feel so good right now, because
Oh,
it's available to us, but the world just layers over it. We get
yes.
busy, freaking emails and meetings and financial and bills and everything else. And I
Yes.
understand how to take care of that, Christine, right? We do.
Mhm.
Let your spirit be your foundation. None of this bullshit matters.
Yeah.
We have to take care of it right now, but you have to bleep that out if I can't say that on
No,
Wise
you
Pine.
say it.
Okay, good. None of this bullshit matters. Just take care of it with your spirit as a foundation.
Yes. And I love that so much about the babies because you're so right. And you know what? I don't have a lot of baby action lately, but my niece just had a baby and can't wait to get my arms around that little baby because you're right,
Yeah.
they're just life and hope and future and it just I love little
Yeah.
babies so much. Well, let me ask you about this though. In your book, you offer tools, which I love when books do this because oftentimes people will tell you the what and the why, but not the how. And I love your hows. Your three tools are the three R's: moment to moment awareness and scenery check ins. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more about that and maybe one of them. Pick one of those and tell us a little bit of how you can use the tools to
Right.
live this life.
Right. Well, the one chapter is called Live Your Truth, and I get into values a little bit, and everybody talks about values. And they know the importance of living your values, yet most people don't have a list of their values that
Mm.
they can. The three R's are to recognize. So, what are your values? Then review them consistently to see which ones maybe you're not living and you don't have the alignment in life. And then the last one is reflect. So, in other words, here's my values. I reviewed them. These are the two. Now, let me reflect and say, okay, what can I begin to do in my life? What actions can I begin to take? So whether it's health, maybe then the actions are a greater awareness around what you eat and drink, how much you eat and drink. If it's relationships, how can I really spend some more time with these people? If it's spirituality, like for me, right? How can I read a little bit more? How can I go to mass more? Any of those things. And it's
Mm-hmm.
very simple, yet you've got to have a list. Like when I do all my workshops, that values, and our friend Ann and Paige out in Scottsdale, they know
Mm-hmm.
you got to have a list of your values somewhere on your phone, in your calendar. And, once a week, I think is great, or maybe twice a month. Just really slow down and say, okay, where's my life not built around my values? So
Right.
that's, and then the awareness, thing is just, it's just that. It's just working to be much more present in terms of where you are. And I believe, Christine, that all starts when you open your eyes in the morning and you come
Mm-hmm.
back to life, so to speak. You talk about routine and tools and rituals. I also have something called the 35, which is, I believe, the most important 35 minutes of your week are the first five each day when you come back, right? 7 days, five. So I oftentimes will get people to develop a word or an acronym and say, just when you open your eyes, what would happen if you started to get into the habit of just going through a couple of mental exercises? So for me, it's SVMA: spirit, vision, mindset, and action. And
Mm.
almost every morning, I say, all right, let me connect with spirit. Let me realize I'm not here forever. I've got some divine energy in me. What's my vision for the year? What else do I need to keep working on? How's my mindset? Do I have any crap up here that I need to clean up? Any negative thoughts? And then action. What actions must I take today from a relationship, a business, a health perspective, whatever it might be. And that just kind of gets me set that when I put my feet on the floor outside of my bed, I'm in a much better position to engage with life and live more towards RFL.
Yeah, I love that so much. And it's so much easier than some things I've read in the past. There's like for example, The Miracle Morning, is a great book and a great mindset, but there's a lot to it. And most
Yeah.
people I think reading it go, "Okay, this overwhelms me." But I love the SVMA. I
Yeah.
love that. And say it one more time with the SVMA. Spiritual,
Spirit, vision,
vision,
mindset,
mindset,
action.
and action. And when you wake up in the morning, just thinking SVMA, I love that so
Mhm.
much. That's something that everyone can do. And I love the way you position it that when you're waking up, you're coming back to life.
Yeah, right.
This is something that I just did with my Crown Society, where I did one
Mhm.
of my morning huddles. I saw it on Instagram or YouTube or something, and somebody was saying that they were telling somebody, what if I told you I have $1 million for you? Oh, you know
Mhm.
what? Scratch that. Make it $10 million. You can have $10 million, no strings, but tomorrow you can't wake up. Would you still
Mhm.
take it? And
Mhm.
then they're like, no, I wouldn't take it. So, what you're telling me is that waking up tomorrow is more important than having $10 million.
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
yeah.
every
It's
day we wake up, think about that's better than winning the lottery. You woke
oh,
up today.
sure.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love that.
yep. Chapter 7 in my book is the shortest chapter, and it's called "Contemplate Your Mortality." And it's only, I don't know, 4 pages or something, just reminding people that think about the fact that you are not going to be here forever.
Hmm.
And that should not be a sad, morbid, depressing thought. You're not. You're
None
not.
of us are.
Not. I want you to be here long, right? Long time.
Hmm.
And you're not, though. So that should be a very empowering thought, I always think, to get you focused again
Yes,
on
to not waste a
what's
minute.
yeah, what's important are your values. So it all kind of ties together. And that's what the book, as you know, the book's only 104 pages. It's
Yep.
rather short.
Hmm.
And, I talked with my editor about it, and she said, no, it's perfect. You don't have to make it longer.
Yes.
You've just given people things to consider. You're not telling them anything. You're just kind of offering. And Marcus Aurelius, in that chapter,
Hmm.
I've read his book, Meditations. He was the last good emperor of Rome, I think back in 70 AD, maybe, or back a long time ago.
I'm going to trust
Any
you.
And one of my favorite quotes is this. He said, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, and to love." And
Mhm.
man, I just think about that so much. And I think
Because
about it during the day when, the proverbial crap of life hits the fan and,
Mhm.
things show up. I just think, okay,
Yes.
settle.
And because somebody else doesn't get that gift today.
Yeah.
And so we've got to really be intentional. And here's another thing. People say, "Oh, I just got to get through these next couple weeks to my vacation or until this project is done."
Right.
You don't want to just get through any part of your life. You try to find the little vacation in every day. And that
Yeah.
might be a cupcake. That might
Yeah.
that might be yoga. That might be a spiritual session or going to church or meditating. So try to
Yeah.
find the vacation in every day. You don't want to just get through any part of our life, especially when we're our age.
That's it. There's so much, to be thankful for. And you can do it anytime. I always tell people, don't wait for tragedy. You grow out of two forces,
Right,
right? You grow out of tragedy or curiosity. Right?
right.
Be curious every day. How can I grow into a better version of me? How can I grow and move through this crappy time that I'm experiencing right now? Don't
Mm-hmm.
tragedy. You're going to grow out of tragedy, or you're going to be in the valley of the victim. You're going to wind up in one of those two places.
Right.
Hey, though, be curious, like you said. That's why I love hanging out with you and all the other people in our little world. Life is not perfect, and we all know that, and we all kind of commit to continued growth and resilience.
And one thing I want to say about little books, mine is little as well. And I
Mhm.
didn't want to write a big book about my whole life or whatnot or all the things I know. I just wanted to teach people this one thing, how to say yes. And same
Yes.
thing for your books. And that honestly, with the difficulty of getting people's attention today, where there's so much distraction in the world, I think that's what needs we need more of.
Yeah.
Small little snacks to really just refuel your bucket, get some new thoughts, new mindset, and move on and move forward. So I love these little snack of books. I want to ask you, did you ever make an audiobook of any of your books?
Yes, I have an audio book of Back to Life, but it
Okay.
was actually first published as Back from Heaven's Front Porch. That was the title because I had a small publisher that picked the book up and published it. And then a few years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I got the rights back and I changed the title to be more consistent with my branding and my messaging and added a final chapter. So as it sits right now, I don't have any of these. I have been exploring it because I know the whole audiobook thing is very simple to do. A lot of times you can just do it in your office now with some software. So I don't have any now. I am thinking about it.
Now, I noticed something that you did earlier, and I really want to point it out as a strategy and something that's in your book. You said, I really try, and then you corrected yourself and you said, I work. And that is also in the book, and I flagged that. So I'm glad I caught you.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
tell us
yeah.
a little bit more about that.
Well, I think trying, when people say they're trying, whether it's, I'm trying to lose weight, I'm trying to be more patient, I'm trying to save more money, I'm trying to get out of debt, whatever it might be, I'm trying to be more spiritual or trying to get back to my faith. Oftentimes, when they use that word, and you've seen it probably, it's there's a negative energy, there's uh, a weakened, I'm trying, and the verbals I'm trying, and the shoulders go down maybe, and the head goes like this. So I offer to them, don't try. You're not trying. Do the work. Do the work to get in better shape. Do the work to get more sound financially. Do the work. And that's where
Mhm.
you have to see the work is really a combination of what am I saying to myself about where I am, and then what actions am I taking. So I'll
Mhm.
just say, sometimes some days we do the work great, right? Some
Mhm.
days you have a wonderful day, relationships are strong, you got a good workout, you ate real healthy, you're in moderation with alcohol, great. Other days you don't do the work so well, and that's
Mhm.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
You
But you
know,
showed up, you did something, and that's good. I love that because again, that's another mindset hack because the minute you say, I'm trying to do this, your
yep,
brain is hearing you're trying, but. Here's
Mhm.
the door, the open door for the excuse. And
Yeah.
so when you say, I am working or I will do XYZ, I am working on XYZ today, that's you're committing.
Yes.
And yeah, so when I read that, I love that so much. And then I heard you do it, it reminded me. There's just so much I want to talk to you about. I'm going to ask you a couple more questions and then we're going to get to some fun, okay?
Sure.
All right, so can you share an anecdote of an example from the book that illustrates how a small intentional change can lead to that meaningful transformation? Do you have any examples, either from any of your books or someone you're working with? Any examples you want to share?
Yes. I think really it's the awareness. So, and people go, gosh, that's really big. Awareness is just a mindset of saying, let me slow down and be more present and be more aware. And I
Mm.
think that's really the key. Now, in terms of antidotes, I've had many people that have worked with their values and they've gotten much, much better. I've had many people who have the first chapter is be more spirit, right? So I've coached them around ways to say, okay, let's tap into that. The spirit is your intangible, innate essence that we all have, and it only wants what's good for us. So there's different ways I've coached people to connect with that. It could be prayer in the morning. It could be a little bit more journaling. So there's many, many antidotes. It's just let me be aware of the change that I want, the growth that I want. And then again, it comes back to what am I saying to myself? What am I thinking about where I am? And then what actions can I take to kind of move towards that?
Yeah,
You know, that,
awareness is key. Without
yeah,
the
that's,
awareness, you can't set the intention.
yeah,
You
yeah,
just
it's the
show
key.
up and respond to the life.
Sure. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times too, the thing is, what are you reading and what are you listening to? You
Mm-hmm.
and I talk a lot. It's easy for us. I'm always reading books and listening to podcasts. And Lizzie, our
Mm-hmm.
daughter, just sent me one today, Mel Robbins with oh gosh, a woman, Dr. Julie, somebody, clinical psychologist that I've never heard of. So in our family, there's always transfer of good information for one
Mm-hmm.
another because that's, as you said, that's a really good way to live more with radical reverence for your life. When you are listening to somebody that's giving you information, you do this so well. They're giving you information, not telling you. They're just offering information that can make your life better.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you may go, no, I'm good. I'm good with that. I don't need it. And other times you go, man, I needed to hear that. I got away from that, or I never did that before.
Right.
So I
Or it's
think
just the awareness. Yeah, when they
yeah,
share something that they experience and you're like, oh, me too. And then they have a strategy and you're like, oh, and just all of a sudden now the bells will go off when you catch yourself saying try or it said I should. Those things that the awareness is what's key. And then the beauty of the awareness is that we're never going to be perfect. But
no,
now we can call ourselves out on the bullshit. Okay.
yeah,
Right? So, because now we can go, okay, I should have a salad, but I've got this cheeseburger in my hand.
yeah,
Now,
oh
right?
yeah,
But you can go, okay, you know what? Should I or will I?
right.
And you know what? Today, I'm going to have the burger. And that's okay. You're making the choice, but you're at least aware of it.
That's
And
it.
how about for all the leaders out there listening that are running hotels or running businesses? Is there a way you can apply your radical reverence
Oh
to
God,
leadership? And I know you can, but share
sure.
a little bit ideas, maybe how they could bring it into their leadership.
Yeah, great. Thanks. I think when you think about this concept of RFL, right, living with a radical reverence for your life. So when you think about leadership and when you think about culture, here's the 7 principles, right? The first one is be more spirit. So you've got people connected to that source of energy, love, and resilience, right? We all need that. The second one is live your truth. That's all around living your values and your authenticity and creating a life outside of work that re energizes you versus beats you down and then burnout shows up. The third one is love your people fiercely. So, as leaders and ladies and gentlemen at the Ritz Carlton and stars everywhere else, do you truly love the people that you work with? Right? That's kind of some people. Well, I don't have to love everybody. Yeah, love is the
Hmm.
condition in which the well-being of another person is essential to your own. So, if we work off of that, it would be good. Um, the fourth one is trust that you are a resilient human being. So that's a mindset that says we can get through anything. I can get through anything. We can get through anything.
Mhm.
Number 5 is embrace the struggle. So when the struggle shows up in life, in business, in fourth quarter, or earnings are down, a big group, canceled or whatever, embrace those facts. It's not sugarcoating, but it's rather say, man, we are not where we want to be right now. This is really not great for us. So you can label it a little bit. And here's how we're going to get through it. And here's what the other looks like. So there's the vision. 6 is always work to be better. So that's your physical, your emotion, your spiritual sense. And then 7 is contemplate your mortality. So when you show up and you know that you're not going to be here forever, enjoy where you are.
Right.
And if you don't, update your resume, get the hell out of there and get another job. Because
Right.
life's too short.
Right.
But I go to some of these properties like you. I was in the Ritz-Carlton Aruba not too long ago, and the people down there are just amazing. I mean, Steve and Corey and everybody has built wonderful cultures down there. But I'm thinking, man, if you can't feel good looking out at this and these palm trees, and I get it, you may have challenges in your life, you may have lost a loved one. I get that. Let that energy be real, and then also in unison with that, look around and go, all right, how can I get through this? What can I do? What can I appreciate right now? Who loves me? Who do I love? So I think those 7 principles that I talk about are inherent in leadership and in culture. I was talking with a friend of mine they want to take they're at a Ritz-Carlton in Southern California. They want to go 5-star. I mean, that's it. They want to go 5-star. And
Nice.
I'm thinking 5-star is when the majority or all of your people live with a radical reverence for their life. Right? The why is capitalized here because it's all about you. Focus on you first. And then that energy that you have just distributes through other people, family, leaders, teams.
Influential leadership. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
And when you talk about the last quality there, every property I've ever been at, I always think about what's the legacy I'm leaving this hotel. And so that's another way to kind of combine that last one there is what's the legacy you're leaving? This might not be it for you. You have a long career and you're going to go on to do other great things, but what's the legacy you're leaving for this team and this hotel and its success and its history? And that's important. That's important.
Yeah.
One more thing about the love. I talk about this a lot too. That you know what, there's lots of customers we might not love or let's say this, we might not like. We might be in a hotel that we don't like that brand or we don't like the condition it's in, those kinds of things. But we need to find something that we love in everything. If you
Yes.
don't have something that you love about your hotel, you're not going to be able to sell it and love the people in it like you do. And that could be it right there, that you love the people who work in it. That you just have to find something that you love about your customer, about your team, about your product. Otherwise, it's time to move on.
Yeah. And there's ways you can reframe that, right? When I always, I laugh and I'm a titanium elite because you and I the industry. And I'll often tell people when those very difficult titanium elites show up and they want to swim on the corner and everything else, corner room suite. And how do you deal with them? And then I'll just say, well, just smile and give them a room on the front facing the road or something. But it really comes down to how do you deal with that? So when I have difficult people, what I really try to do is connect to their spirit. Because again, for me, it comes back to inside of that person somewhere is this divine energy. And the divine energy is only good and it's only love. Now, I'm experienced this person where that energy is very covered over by whatever they're dealing with right now in life, or the fact that they didn't get the room or the room flood, whatever it might be. And then sometimes when, and I'm starting to experiment with this a little bit more, and I think it came up when I wrote the book and I talked about babies, how much I love babies. When I'm dealing with a difficult person now, even some people in my family, I start to ask myself, I say, I wonder what they look like when they were a baby. So now I take this person and I try to shrink them down to what they look like as a baby. And I kind of have some fun with it. Were they bald? Were they fat? Were they skinny? Were they, they look like a person like many babies do. So again, it's just how can you kind of reframe and shift your focus to something versus what you got to deal with what you're dealing with. But sometimes that just it diffuses me a little bit. so I don't get
Mm-hmm.
all worked up and I don't get real defensive, and maybe I don't, anger doesn't show up.
Right.
And I just, come on, man, I know we got to deal with this, and let's figure out the best way to do it.
Right. And the minute you can do that, then you're going to influence the person in front of you. If you can relax, the minute you puff up, they puff up. So the
Yeah.
minute you can defuse yourself, you're going to help influence everyone around you. And even when I'm with the most challenging customer or team member, whatever that might be, I say, this is going to be, I love that this is going to be a great party story to tell. So
Yes.
there's always something to love about
Yeah.
our challenges in a life.
Real quick. The best, everybody listen to this because I'm still working on it. The best way to change the situation is change yourself in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the summary of what you and I just talked about. Best way to
Yes.
change a situation, change yourself in it.
Yes. That's a great way to just in a quick statement say it. And
Yeah.
that's perfect. Yeah, I love that. The best way to change the situation is change yourself in it.
Right.
Okay, now on to some fun. If your journey toward radical relevance had a theme song, what would this theme song be?
Oh my gosh, that's great. I'm trying to think of all my playlists.
I know you're a music guy.
Yeah, I know. Well, the one song that I have on my list now, my workout list and running list is REO Speedwagon Roll with the Changes. And
Perfect.
that's a good one, I think. Roll with the Changes. Yeah. And Tina Turner, I like Simply the Best. That's a good song. So if you
Oh,
take that to yourself, just continue to work to be simply the best that you can be.
love that. That's a good one. Okay, now you know that every episode I have my guest give me a question to ask my next guest. Okay, if you could open a box
Mhm.
with everything you've ever lost in it, what would you look for first?
And does it have to be lost still? Or I've just
Oh,
lost it at some point in my life?
hmm. I'll leave that up to you.
Yeah, I think what comes back for me is I would look for my faith times when I've lost it
Mm.
and it hasn't been as strong. And I would look for those people that I've lost, where I could just kind of give them a quick another hug and tell them I love them. I do that now, but it's a spiritual hug versus a physical hug. So I think I would look for that. I would look for my faith, and I would look for the people that are no longer here in the physical sense, so I
Mhm.
could give a quick hug one more time.
Yeah. Okay. Now, there's another question like this, and I wasn't sure if this would be good, but I'm just going to ask it to you. Um, if you could go open a door into a room with every person you've ever known,
Mhm.
who would you look for first?
Wow, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I'd probably look for Bruce first, and
Your
he's
buddy?
my buddy that died in the accident.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because when he died, the last time I saw him, I was delivering CPR to him, and he was gone. And then at the hospital, I had a chance to go, see him and sit with him for a moment,
Mm-hmm.
after they told me he had passed, and I didn't do that. And that's one of the things I would probably do over. So if I went into a room with everybody I've ever known, I would look for him first and give him a hug,
Yeah, that's
and he
really
would
great.
give me the cheek and say, "Hey, man, it's okay."
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Well, when I was thinking about which question I wanted to ask you, I was thinking that might be too emotional, but I thought
thought
you
that
might say that.
it might be a heavy way to end our episode, but it really isn't.
No,
You know, I,
it's a beautiful way.
yeah, I felt his spirit many, many times. I always do. I think about him almost every day.
Hmm.
His kids and his wife have continued on in life, and they've just been amazing,
Mm,
moving through that tragedy and creating it. So yeah, it's
yeah.
it's not. I'm blessed to have known him and loved him.
Hmm.
Years that we knew one another.
Now, what question do you have for my next guest?
Mhm. So it's this, and
Okay.
it's from the book. Probably you'll remember this. So my question for your next guest would be, what needs to happen between now and when you take your last breath so that you can also be wearing a smile?
Oh, I love that.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah. I mean, that's my goal. If I'm aware, yeah, and
Hmm.
the end of the book is that. In the preface, I challenge people and say, hey, if you're aware of your last breath and you know
Mm-hmm.
it's the end of this journey, will you smile? And I believe
Mm-hmm.
somebody with ARFA will. And then at the end of the book, the end of the book, well, I'll just give it away. That's my goal again. As I
Mm-hmm.
get to the end of life, I want to be wearing a smile,
Yes.
because I look back and say, yeah, it wasn't perfect. And you continue to grow into the best version of Danny Bader that you could be.
Mm-hmm.
And you really work to love fiercely. And you know that this is not the end.
Yeah, I love that. Well, my last podcast was about what if you could time travel back in time and give yourself advice or ask yourself to do something differently to help you now, would you do it? And of course, most people would say yes. And I said, well,
Mhm.
guess what? You have that power today to do that for your future self.
So
What will
true.
you start today for
Mhm.
that person that you will be in 10 years? And
Yeah,
that's powerful. And it's the
sure it is.
same question. I love that. I love you so much.
It is. I love
All
you
right,
too. I
my
love
dear.
you too.
Let's think about 3 action items people could take from this session or this chat we had. I love the SVMA for sure. I think that was such a great, easy thing. When you come alive every morning, go through the spiritual, the visual, the mindset, and the action.
Mhm.
Did I get that right? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, it's not, if they want to make up a different word, that's fine. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of times T shows up for thankful. A lot of times G shows up for gratitude. So just
Mm-hmm.
think about
Make it yours.
what 3, 4, 5 words do I need to kind of focus on? What's the abbreviation that's going to get me in the best emotional state, the best spiritual state to get out of bed and get into life again?
Yeah, love that.
Yeah.
Come alive again every morning. I love it. Better than $10 million. All right, what's
Yes.
two other things that you think are good action item?
Well, you've probably heard it, to connect with your spirit. And
Mm-hmm.
again, I talked about going to church, and connecting with your spirit is not about where you go to church, where you don't go to church.
Or what you
It
believe
yeah, it's
about
how do you
you.
yeah, how do you connect? Because you all have it. We've heard too many stories, and you've had experiences where you've felt connected to something bigger, however you
Mm-hmm.
define that. You've felt connected where you got through the most brutal part of your life where you had no idea how you were going to get through it. And you look
Mm-hmm.
back and you go, well, I guess it was just the human spirit. So look for ways to connect more with your spirit. And remember, the spirit resides in stillness for the most part. So look to be still and
Right.
connect.
Right. Love it. And how about the 3 R's? Maybe refresh the 3 R's real quick for everyone.
Yeah. So your values, take a look at, you can just Google a list of human values. Brene Brown, who you and I both like, she does
Mm-hmm.
more on values. And then just think about, recognize what are your values. So get them down somewhere, 6, 8, 10 of them. Review them, right? Review them so you can say, okay, what do I need to do with this? And then I'm getting old. What was the other R? That's horrible when you write it and you don't
I love
know.
you.
No,
Wait.
no, no. Recognize, review, and then reflect.
I was
I
gonna
got
say
it.
there. I got it right
It's muddled up. So get your values down, review them as often as you need to, and then reflect to say, okay, what actions can I begin to take to live more into who I am, because these are my values.
Perfect. Perfect. Danny Bader, I
Yeah,
love
no,
every minute with you. I can't wait for our next conversation. Thank you so much for coming on today and inspiring our followers. Thank you so much. Our wise pineapples.
you're welcome. I'll be
Thanks.
back.
That's a wrap for today's show. Say yes to taking action and changing the world one yes at a time. And oh, my friend, will you say yes to review, like, and subscribe? The more yeses you give, the more juicy goodness I can bring to all of you wise pineapples. Cool or cool?